All right. Looks like we're live. All right. Started a couple minutes early. See if anyone will show up. All right. Share my screen. Whoa. All right. Okay. So what we are working on today is we have for Pico, we have a couple services that we want to enable analytics for. This allows Pico users to create blog posts and then get, some rough analytics on how well a blog post is doing or how many unique visitors are going to their blog or blog posts. Also, we have Pages, that is a static site hosting service. That is another one where me personally, I have a bunch of production websites hosted on Pages, and I really want to know how well they're performing, just like general, like how many unique visitors per day, per month, what are the top URLs, what are the top refers. As you can see here on the Pico UI dashboard, we've got all of that information right here. It's very rough and just barely working. Doesn't look pretty, but it's sort of in a place where we're accumulating data and we're slowly starting to funnel it into the dashboard. One of the design decisions for Pico Plus Analytics is to make it opt-in. So we don't automatically start aggregating analytics for blog posts or Pages sites unless the owner of that blog or site explicitly enables it. So right now you cannot. Right now I don't have that functionality built in. So whenever someone wants to enable analytics on Pico, I have to go into our production database and manually add that feature or that flag to that user. So what I want to work on today is just making it so they can click a button and they can enable analytics for their blog and sites. All right, that's the rough feature that we're trying to build right now. So here's the dashboard. Here are all of your websites. If you click on a site, you can get the unique visitors, top URLs, top refers for each site. If you go to your blog posts or your blog section, you can see all the unique visitors per day, plus the top URLs and top refers. So this is my personal blog. You can see yesterday I had 100 unique visitors go to my blog site, which I feel like is pretty good for me. I'm sure for more popular engineers, like 100 is not a lot, but for me, that feels like it's pretty good. Anyway, so what we need to do is go into the UI code. Actually, what we need to do is go into the Pico code base. This is where we've been building the UI API. And here's the API file. You can see all of the API endpoints that I've currently built for the Pico UI. You can see here some of these endpoints relate specifically to analytics. The way that I want to implement Pico users being able to opt into analytics is through feature flags. So we have this is my local database. We have a table called feature flags. Pull that up. It's really simple. It's how we enable Pico Plus for any customer. Is we just add the features that they want, and then we also support like size limits and things like that. So on a per user basis, we can increase or decrease the amount of storage, for example, that a feature has. So for for example, there's going to be, let's see if I have any actual features here. Okay, so you can see here, like pages is a feature, images is a feature, prose is a feature, tons is a feature, and some of them have file max and storage max requirements or quotas. So this is how we can kind of customize quotas on a per user basis. This table is super simple, but it has allowed us to do quite a lot with a very simple table. Anyway, so as you can see here, I have an entry for analytics. That is how we enable analytics for users, is we add a feature to their user. So if you go into your account management section in the Pico UI, you can see here, here's all the features that I have enabled. Analytics is one. So that's what we need to do. We need to add analytics. We need to let users create a feature flag for their account. And that'll allow them to, once that feature is enabled, our APIs will start accumulating analytics for that user. Alrighty. So with the background context in mind, what we need to do is create a new endpoint that basically creates or deletes that feature flag. Okay, so based on the API endpoints that I already have created, create token, delete token seems like a good candidate to sort of carbon copy. Maybe API keys is a little bit better. So I'm going to copy that, paste it. So we have a post method. Can I use post analytics? Well, I mean, this is interesting because feature flags are a generic concept. They're not specific to analytics. So we could create an API endpoint that is for feature flags, being able to create and delete feature flags. I like that idea because then it's a little more abstract. And if we add more feature types in the future, we can leverage the same API endpoints that we're creating for analytics. The downside is we need to gate certain feature flag types because that's how we enable Pico Plus, and we don't want people just like adding whatever feature they want to the system, because some of them are, as you can see here, wait, let's see here. I have an admin feature flag, for example. We don't want any Pico user to just be able to add an admin flag. So if we did create a generic features endpoint, we would have to gate it and basically allow list only some features to be added and reject other features. So that's the downside of having a generic feature API endpoint. I think what I'm going to do though is go down that path and only allow, and just have like an array of allow list feature types, and that's it, and go from there. Same with deleting. We don't want users to accidentally delete feature types that are important. Like, if they signed up for Pico Plus and they've got pages, we don't want them to accidentally delete the pages feature flag. So anyway, let's go from there. And so let's just call it features for post and then delete features there. I think that makes sense to me. Make this more obvious. All right, so we have the create pub key and delete pub key that we're kind of carbon and copying off of. I'm going to copy paste both of those, and we're going to work from there. I'll put it all the way at the bottom just so it's easier for me to navigate in this file. Create pub key payload. This is the payload this is the post payload. So create endpoint, create feature payload, the name. Another aspect of feature flags is the ability to it has an expires at column, which allows us to basically, when you add, for example, when you purchase Pico Plus, we set a 1-year timer on all the features that are added during the Pico Plus purchase process. So that allows us to automatically, expire features or expire Pico Plus after a year. I could see a reason why we would want to let the client customize the expiration date. For example, for analytics, I don't think we want to expire the analytics after a year. That doesn't make sense. From like the principle of least surprise, that definitely doesn't make sense. That would be surprising for me if I was on a joined Pico and enabled analytics and had it just like silently be disabled after a year. So we probably want to make that expiration date really far in the future, like 100 years, for example. But the question is, do we want the client, the UI, to be able to set the expiration date? I think for now, I'm going to actually not worry about that and just hard code 100 years. Because this feature, these API endpoints are literally just going to be for analytics for now. So I think that's like a good iterative approach just to get this to work as quickly as possible without having to worry about like validating expiration times and things like that. I'm just going to hard code it in the API endpoint itself, and that will sort of unblock us from letting users add and delete analytics. All right, so create feature is what I'm going to call it. Application JSON, get user CTX. This just ensures that we have a user, because technically when you go to the Pico UI, we do have an account creation flow within the Pico UI. So if you don't have a Pico account yet, and then you activate the UI tunnel and go to the website, it won't reject you. It'll let you through. So we have to check. In this particular case, you need to have an account. So that's what this ensure user does, is it guarantees that we have a user account. DB pool, that's just our database API interface. Insert public key is not what we want here. We want feature. Insert feature. Okay, so here's the first roadblock. We don't have an API endpoint to create features. As you can see here, we have has feature for user, find feature for user, find features for user. We don't have a create feature or insert feature. So I think what we want is an insert feature, payload name, and that's what the DB pool API will look like, I think. So let's just assume we have it for now. We don't need a fingerprint, don't need that. We do want to return the feature that was created. So we'll do that. Okay, let's just assume that this was working. I think this is all we technically need. I guess we're gonna want a time. Okay, so let's do this. So let's create a time now. Oops. And then we do expires at equals now dot add date. Add date has an API of years, months, days. So let's just do 100 years and hard code that here. Okay. So insert feature requires the user ID, the name of the feature, and then the expiration at. We also need a whitelist. Whitelist the feature name so people can't just post whatever name they want. It needs to be a limited list. So let's do that as well. Right here, validate feature name from payload. That's what we need to build. So allow list string array, keeping it really simple right now. Just analytics is the only one you can create. And now we just check it. So let's see, can I do slices? Contains, there we go. Allow list. And then payload name. I don't think we need that. Okay, so if the allow list contains the payload, we actually want to do the inverse. If it doesn't contain the payload, we need to send an error. There we go. Just do an error, generate an error. Is not in feature allow list. Let me do payload name. Error, there we go. Okay. Only allow certain features. Only allow the user to add certain features to their account. Okay. So there we go. I think this is all we need to create the feature. We have the allow list. Let's make this a little bit even more obvious by printing the list of allowed features. So if a user does see this error, they know that they know exactly what features are allowed and what feature they sent up. So strings join, and then we do allow list join with the comma. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. Okay, so we still need to build out the insert feature database query, but let's move on and get this built, the delete feature built. So, you know, we want to let users enable. We also want to let them disable. So I am going to build out that API endpoint. So own keys, we don't care about that. Found, no. That's interesting. We actually need to reuse this allow list. There we go. And since it's no longer in the function scope, let's rename it so it's more obvious what this is without having to write documentation or comments. Okay, there we go. All right, so now, top key, that's wrong. It's feature ID. So there's that. Remove feature. When removing things by IDs, I do like to let the API accept an array. That way, you know, if you have a bunch of features that you want to delete in one pass, you don't have to call the same API endpoint n number of times. And since it's just an array of IDs, like it's pretty easy to implement. So we will do that right now. Okay, so remove features, error, like that, could not remove features, send the error, okay. And when you do a delete, usually there's a no content response type. That's very, very common. Okay, so we need to add the allow list piece. If strings, slices contains, Oh, you know what? I don't think slices contains is what we want. I think string contains this. Right? Is that wrong? Oh, no. No, I was right. Okay. Slices contains feature allow list, feature ID. It doesn't contain, there we go. I mean, it's really the same logic. I mean, we could abstract it, but I'm not a huge fan of dry in general. Oh, that's not quite what we want, actually. We want to find the feature first, because I'm sending the feature allow list to feature ID, which doesn't make sense. I need to send it the actual feature name. Find feature for user. Let's see, user ID and feature. Okay, so user.id and then feature. Oh, shoot, that's not even going to work either. All I have is the ID. So this is one of those interesting areas where traditional REST API points, when you have a delete call, you delete the ID. You send the ID through the payload instead of like the name or whatever. But in this case, I actually kind of want it to just be the name. But the way we built feature flags is you could have a bunch of features with the same name. It's not unique for the user. You can have multiple records of analytics for a single user with different expiration dates. But I think in this case, it does make sense to just delete all of them by name. Because if you're trying to disable a feature, if you have multiple records for analytics, like you don't want to have to delete all of them. That doesn't make sense. You want to just say, hey, I want to disable analytics. So go through for that user and delete all the analytics. So I think in this case, being able to provide the name of the feature you're trying to delete actually makes a lot of sense. It's a little jank, but honestly, I think I'm just going to go with it for now because it's a lot easier to implement. So instead of feature ID, it's feature name. And then now I don't even need. Well, we do need the feature ID. Ooh, okay. That's interesting. Shoot. Find feature for a user. All right, we got to go into find feature for user. How does this work? So here we're querying. Oh, find feature for user. Okay. Select blah, blah, blah. Name, order by, expires at limit 1. Okay. So that means when we have a user ID and a name, we're going to find the one with the latest expiration date. So the expiration date that's the furthest in the future is the one that's going to get returned. Okay, so actually remove features is not going to be feature ID. It's going to be feature name. I think that's just how I'm going to build it. So when you remove the feature, you're removing all of the features with that name, because you can technically have a bunch. I'm just going to implement it that way for now. I don't love it. I think it's a little jank and confusing. I could also imagine situations where you do want to just delete one specific feature and not all the features by the same name. One of the reasons why we wanted to have the same feature for a user, like have a bunch of records with the same name for a user, is because we wanted it for record keeping. which then brings up the whole question of, well, should we be deleting anything inside the feature flags table? Maybe instead of deleting, we soft delete, which just means, marking it as deleted instead of actually removing the record. I mean, if we go that path, which I think actually is the best path forward, we would need to alter the feature flag table to have a deleted at column, which is with a timestamp. So then when we're finding features, we find features that aren't deleted. And when we're like fetching features, we fetch features that haven't been deleted. And that's how you soft delete. I think that is probably the right path. I don't want to do that today, though. That's too much work. So for right now, I'm going to implement when you delete a feature, you're deleting all the features by that name. And that's sort of the path that I'm going to take for right now. So we actually don't need to find the feature first because that doesn't make sense. We're going to delete all of them anyway. This is fine. It's just a feature name now. And remove features. Okay, I'll still make that an array, so you can remove an array of features by name. Okay. So I think this is built the way we want it to. We just need to go into our database interface and create insert feature and remove features. I realize that there is an incongruency with those two APIs, but that's just how I've done it throughout the API interface. So Pico is a monorepo. We have a bunch of services, and most of them are built and hosted from this one Pico repo. I can actually show you. Here is the main monorepo. So here's our main organization site. And then we have our Hacker Labs Pico repo. This is our main repo. It has all of our services in it for the most part. And then inside of that is a database folder. And then we have a db.go. This is our sort of database interface. Whenever we're interacting with our database, we go through this interface in Golang. So if you wanted to, for example, re-implement our database using SQLite only and not Postgres, which is what we're using in production as Postgres. If you wanted to use SQLite, you would just implement a new interface for SQLite. And it's a nice like abstraction layer that is very handy because now at a glance, you can see everything that you can do with the database, which is very, very convenient to just read at a glance. Oh my gosh. GitHub's highlighting, I don't know. I need to write a blog post about GitHub and their like sort of Git viewer. I feel like it's way too heavy. Anyway, save that for later. So, okay, back to the code. Right here's the DB file. Here's sort of a clump where I added all the feature-related API endpoints. So we need insert feature. And we need the user ID. We need the name of the feature and the expires at that time. And then what we'll return is the feature flag or an error. And then this is string, actually. Okay, so there's that. And then remove features should just be an array of string names and an error if it fails. All right, so those are the two interfaces that are the two functions that we need to build inside of the Postgres implementation of that interface. Create feature expires at. Oh, did I already do this? Find feature for user. Oh, no, nope, that's different. that allows you to add oh wait, create feature expired. Why am I? Oh, okay. That's to just add that's just to add an expiration date for all these features when we're enabling Pico Plus. Not something we need to do right now or look at right now. So we have func that. If people are chatting in or chatting in the stream, sorry, I'm not looking at it. I only have one monitor. I actually just purchased another monitor for this specific purpose because, I'm sharing the whole screen and I don't, I want to look at chat, but if I toggle to chat, then it's just going to do the sort of infinite warp of my stream. And I don't want to show that, I guess. So I have another monitor coming and then I can put the stream on one side and then work on the other side and start engaging with people that are viewing the stream. But for right now, I will not be replying to stream chat at this point until and maybe if I stop sharing, I can reply to some comments if there are any. Anyway, continuing on. So we need to implement these two features. Generally, when I'm implementing these database queries, I look for something that is mostly identical. Insert token is pretty close. So let's just build that. So we wanted to return an ID, not a token. So feature ID string, there we go. Insert token is not what we want, but user ID, name, and expires at are what we want. And then we want to scan for the feature ID, so the ID that gets returned. And then instead of this, it's nil. Instead of this, it's nil. And then we do feature error. We find feature for user. I mean, it's interesting. That's actually not, we don't want it to return the feature ID. I mean, we can, but that's not how I find features. I don't really want to build another query. All right, I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Find feature for user just finds the latest feature by the expiration date, sorted by the expiration date and finding the first one. I'm just going to assume that the expires at is going to be the latest for the insert feature functionality, which is technically not true. We could have a feature called analytics that is 100 years in the future, and then you insert another feature that has an expiration date in 10 days. Find feature for user is going to find the analytics feature flag from 100 years in the future. Not what we want here, but it's just it'll be okay for now. Making all kinds of sacrifices in this code, which if you read the Pico repo, if you actually put a magnifying glass on the Pico repo, we have a lot of sacrifices in this code base. Tech debt, I guess. It's not ideal, but it's all in an effort to get things done. I'm firmly a firm believer in done is better than perfect. It's sort of a company motto at Aptable, the company I work at. Done is better than perfect. It's top of mind. Every time I'm building a feature, I'm always thinking about done is better than perfect. Because perfection is just, you'll never reach it. And there is definitely a diminishing return when you hit the sort of 80 percentile of a feature. The first 80% is really easy to implement, and the last 20% is extremely hard to implement. So there's this just difficulty curve that happens. So I'm always striving for 80% of a feature and then iterate on the last 20%. I usually never make it to 100% of a feature. I mean, that in a lot of ways, what does that even mean? But yeah, so I think for now, this is good enough. Just get it to work. We don't have that many users on the Pico platform trying to enable analytics. So, and it's good enough for now. All right. So we don't want feature ID. We actually want feature name. So user ID and then name is what we're going to feed it out. Error doesn't equal nil. Error. And then if it is good, we return feature. Okay. So that's exactly what we want. Instead of SQL insert token, we're going to create a new query insert into feature flags. User ID name expires at values 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we have this. Format it a little bit. All right. So insert into feature flags the user ID, the name, and the expiration date. User ID name expires at returning ID. I think that's how you do it. Yep, returning ID. All right. So that should work. Yeah, we're using query row so we can get the returning ID. Although in this case, we're not using it at all. That's fine. Okay, so I think that's exactly what we want. I don't think we need to do anything more there. Now remove, let's look for another one that is similar. Remove users. How does that work? Delete from app users where ID equals any. Okay, that's what we want. So I'm going to copy paste this. Delete that. There we go. Instead of user IDs, it's names. And let's go here, copy this query. Where, ooh, okay, we need user ID as well. Where user ID equals 1 and name equals any 2. Oh, that's not a UUID. Shoot. I actually don't know how to do this. Can I just do 2 like that? Well, this is where I need to go into select ID name from app users where name equals eroc. This is local. So we have the ID. Now what we need to do is delete from feature flags where user ID equals user ID and name equals any analytics. I'm assuming that needs to be in quotes. Let's just try that. Nope. All right, let's look here. Postgres, any. Okay. I can't figure this out, so I don't think I'm gonna hammer at this. Again, done is better than perfect. I just want to get this to work. So I'm going to change the API and not be a string or an array of names. I'm just going to make it. Oh, I see. Join. Let's try that. Let's try one more. So, comma. Maybe it's like this. All right. Yeah, I'm changing it. I don't know what the SQL query is for that, and I don't want to hammer at this too much. I just want to get this to work. So we're going to do that for now. Remove feature. Another sacrifice. It's okay. That's okay. We're going to get this to work, and then we can iterate on improving it. All right. So remove feature. Change the API slightly. Instead of remove features, it's just remove feature. And we also need the user ID. Yes, exactly. Okay. So it is now implemented. And the only thing we need to change is this. Include user ID and feature name. All right. I believe this is fully implemented in the API, but we should probably test it. So this API is only accessible through a web tunnel, which means you need to set up a local tunnel, SSH local tunnel to this API point. But once you do that, you have access to all these APIs without any authorization headers or cookies, because the authentication and authorization is handled by the web tunnel at the SSH protocol level and not at the API client level. It's one of the big benefits of using web tunnels is you don't need to supply any headers, authorization headers or cookies. Once you connect to the tunnel, it just works. So I'll demonstrate that right now. So I just built this, and now I booted up the SSH server for Pages, which is what this UI API is hosted on. Then what I need to do is set up a local tunnel. Oops, that didn't work. Wait, why didn't that work? That doesn't make sense. Why did it? Oh, I think it's lowercase p. There it is. Okay, so there's that. So now the tunnel is activated. So I should just be able to curl 5001 API current user, pipe it through JQ, boom. So again, like you look at this curl request, I'm not doing, it's just a bare curl. I'm not doing anything special here, but I'm able to get my user through this API endpoint because the API endpoint is only accessible through the SSH tunnel. It's really, really cool. I love this. I love this development environment. Like it's just so handy because now using curl against your API while you're developing or even in production is trivial. It's really, really nice. So, okay, the features, here are the new API endpoints, post and delete. So what I want to do is curl x post d name analytics, like that. And then HTTP localhost 5001 API features. That should be it. Oh, yeah. Look at that. It just worked. That's beautiful. Here we are. That's everything. Let's just double confirm inside of feature flags. Let's get my ID back so I get this my specific select ID name from, and let's do expires at from feature flags where user ID equals and name equals analytics 2. All right, and this one is super far in the future. Beautiful, that worked. Let's just let's curl it again, just so we can see it. Yeah. All right. Now what we want is to, well, let's try another one, but with a name that is not allowed. Hey, look at that. That's beautiful. And, you know, I could pipe it to JQ if I wanted. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Okay, so that works. You can only pass analytics at this point. Okay, so let's try deleting. So curl x delete localhost 5001 API features feature name. Let's just try admin for now. See if that works. Pipe it to JQ. Admin is not in the feature allow list. Beautiful. So what if I pass in analytics? And it got deleted. That's it. That feature has been implemented. All right. So this is exactly what we wanted, and it works the way we expected it to. So I think that's it for the API side. Now we have to actually implement it in the UI side. So do a quick scan of everything we added, make sure there's nothing weird that we need to delete or undo. That looks pretty good. You can see the status. What is it, diff? No. Stats. 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 Nope. There it is. Jeez. Man. All right. Modest amount of changes. Let's go ahead, format the code, lint the code. Okay, so we have something that the linter picked up on. 484. It's unused. See, the linter picked something up. That's great. It should be feature payload. All right. And that's why you lint your code. All right. So feats UI ability to enable, disable analytics. That's technically what we care about. All right, I'm pushing it. That's how we do it at Pico. We just push to main. It don't matter. All right. Now I need to actually deploy the change because I don't want to. It works. I tested it. I don't want to have my local SSH server running and having the UI point to that. I'd rather just have the UI point to our production API. So Pico is built on Docker Compose. So this is how we perform a deploy. It just builds the Docker images for pages and then pushes it to GitHub's registry. And then we just pull it down inside of our VMs, our production VMs, and then boom. There is a little bit of downtime. And it also, another interesting problem is because we're leveraging SSH tunnels, those tunnels have to always be active. So at a point where you make one like HTTP call and then it closes, the SSH tunnel is just persistently open for as long as the connection stays alive on both the server and the client. So when I perform a deploy, if we had a lot of people like tunneled into the UI, all of those users are going to get disconnected. So I think, yeah, so right here, I actually have a tunnel activated. You can see, well, I'm not going to show you my SSH config, but I have an SSH config entry. I can actually show you what that looks like. Sitemap, and then we go down to UI. Where's UI? Here. I just created an SSH config entry for logging into setting up a tunnel to the UI. Super handy, so you don't have to remember the command. I just type SSH UI, boom, I have a tunnel connected to the UI. So I have this active right now. You'll see when I deploy that it's going to disconnect that tunnel, which is why we recommend users use auto SSH, which will automatically try to reconnect the tunnel when it gets disconnected. But you can see here connection was closed. So I just need to reactivate it. And now this is the UI code base, which is a separate code base. I'll show you in GitHub, I guess, while we're here. So right here is the UI code base. It uses Vite, React, and then StarFX, which is a library that I built, which is really awesome. And I'm definitely going to do streams on StarFX because it's the best way to build UI front-end apps. Like if you want to build a single page application, you should use StarFX. It is the best thing to use. There's nothing better, in my opinion. I mean, I built it for my use cases in mind, but I've been building front-end web applications. That's my primary job. I've been doing it for a decade, and I think I know how to, I think I know the right way to do it, and there is a right way. And I baked that into StarFX. So I guess I'll show StarFX real quick. This is the website, but here's the GitHub, neurosnap/StarFX. It's awesome. It's a sleeper. There's only 72 stars and not a lot of usage, but it's a sleeper. It's going to blow up. I just need to build some content for it because it's not clicking for people for some reason. Anyway, all right, going back to the UI. So I have my UI built right here. This is pointing towards the Vite development server, but it's using the production API. So this is pointed towards 1337, which is the production API local forward that I set up. So here's all the API endpoints that we're making. What I need to do now is make it so you can delete this analytics feature. I think what I'm going to do is actually for now, wait, why is there? Oh, that was something that I was doing earlier, making a thumbnail for YouTube. Anyway, all right. So I think the way I'm going to implement this is I'm going to create another box and call it analytics, and it's just going to have an enable, disable on it. So settings. All right, so features enabled. Here's the features one. I'm going to do class name, text Excel, H2, analytics, and then it's just going to be a box. Box. Actually, I'm going to call it analytics settings. Analytics settings, and we're going to build that inside the shared. I have a shared file, which is just a bunch of common components that get reused. Analytics settings. All right, so we have that React component. So the first thing we want to do is query to see if we have analytics. Select feature by name. I don't want to go into too much detail for how all this is hooked up, but basically I'm able to query all the features using useSelector. All right. So has analytics. Well, let's actually just div box it. Get a stub of this built so we can look at it. Analytics. So I think what we want is has analytics. Well, let's just make it a div. analytics is enabled. And then a button to disable analytics. Something like that is what I'm thinking, just to get this to work. And then we do the same thing here. There's a bunch of different ways that we could implement this. What are you complaining about? I need the closing tag. Format. I use biome.js for formatting. Super handy. I just activate it every time I want to format something. And it makes it look pretty. All right. So analytics is enabled. Disable analytics is a button. Analytics is enabled. Disable analytics. Oh, wait. Okay. It is not enabled. Should we just say disabled? Okay, so we have that. Now we need to hook it up. So we have an API file. This is all of our API endpoints using StarFX. So I'm going to say I can make it a toggle. Toggle analytics. Let's try that. Toggle analytics equals API. Nope, we can't toggle. Let's just do enable and disable for now. API post. Then we call features. So we post to features. It has a payload where the name is a string. Oh, actually, we don't need the payload. CTX next. Okay, this is a bunch of plumbing using StarFX. I don't want to talk about how this works specifically, but just as a general, like very quick tutorial, StarFX is a state management system. It's a side effect management system. It has an Express-like middleware system on top of making API calls from JavaScript to some API. So you have a middleware system like Express that allows you to sort of make API calls and process the data after. So here, we need to form the request, pass the body with the name, which is going to be hard-coded, like that. All right, that is all fine. We want to specify the response, which is the feature flag. And then we need to schema.update, schema, blah, 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 features, add. Const feature equals CTX JSON value. You can see here that it's been properly typed. There we go. Feature.id, feature. There we go. All right, so that fetches, makes the post call, grabs the feature off of the API response body, and then adds it to our state management system, or state. So that's for enable. Now we need disable. Disable analytics equals API delete. This one's much easier because it's just feature/name. And we actually don't need to do anything besides that. Function star. And we need to remove it from our local state. Store next. So if there's an error, return. And then yield star schema update, schema features remove. Fortunately, this requires an ID, feature ID. So we're going to have to query for that. Const feature equals yield star select. So let's pull features dot select. No. Let's see here. Select feature by name. Which is hard-coded to, hard-coded to analytics. That's interesting. There we go. And then it's just feature ID. Feature is possibly undefined, not feature return. Okay. So that should be all we need to enable and disable features. The next thing we need to do is hook it up here. I think what I'm going to do is create a toggle. Toggle analytics. CTX next. Start next. And then let's see here. What do we want to do? Blah, 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 blah. Same thing here. So we have the feature. If feature else. So here we're asking the question, hey, fetch the feature analytics. Do we have it? If we do have it, we want to do the opposite, which is yield star disable. And one nice benefit of disable analytics, shouldn't need anything. What am I doing wrong? Oh, that run. There we go. So this will return the CTX. Disable CTX JSON. Okay. It's not okay. Yield star. I think we could just throw new error. Disable CTX JSON error, which is any. That's interesting. Why is that any? That should be string. Anyway, sorry, I'm like mumbling. Okay, so if the feature is enabled, we need to disable the analytics. And if there's an error, we throw, because in the thunk creator, we have a loader that if this function ever throws an error, it will fail the loader. And then we can send the message to the user in the UI through the loader. Here, we want to enable analytics run. And then if enable analytics, JSON, okay. It's not okay. Oops, enable CTX. Same thing. All right. I think that's it. We're not using CTX. That's correct. Because these don't need anything. All right. Now we should just be able to build it. Analytics equals. Oops, let's just call it toggle equals. Analytics. Const on toggle. go. So now we have onClick equals onTotal. Beautiful. And the same goes for this one. OnClick equals onTotal. So there we go. That should technically be all we need, but I'm going to add the loader into the mix. Okay, loader all a loader does is it reports back from the API call, like, hey, was this API call successful or not? And that's how we can display the success error states to the user. So we have a banner loader, which will just show an error, or show a message if a message exists. So if the loader failed, so if the API call failed, the loader will be marked as failure. And then here we can render the error message as a banner. And that's it. It'd be nice if we had a confirmation, like to say if you click disable analytics and then we showed like, hey, confirm or cancel, just so people don't fat finger accidentally disable or enable analytics. Although in this particular case, it's pretty safe because you can just flip it back on. When you disable analytics and you've had it running for a while, as part of what we just built, it's not deleting all the analytic data. That I think I'm going to save for a completely separate endpoint in the account management section to like delete all analytic data. So the owner of the blog or the site can be like, actually, I want to disable analytics and I want to delete any analytics that was collected on my behalf. So I'll save that for a separate stream. But I think this is everything we need. It should just work. Let's try it, I guess. Oops, we have an error. What the? Oh. Right. There we go. Settings. So here, analytics is enabled. I can click disable. Let's see what happens when I click disable. Hey. Delete was successful. Okay. Hey. And you see that it was added and removed here. There we go. A feature has been implemented. We post with analytics and we get the response back. Beautiful. That's it. That's it. This looks ugly. So I'm going to make it look prettier. Let's see, go back here. I'm going to do size or variant equals small. Variant's actually the wrong word. I should change that to size, but make it small. Actually, I don't like that. What I really want is group H. So I want it to be horizontal. Let's see what that looks like. That's pretty good. Well, maybe I do want it small. It just doesn't look good. That doesn't look good either. Well, I'm going to leave it like that for now. We'll disable analytics. Sweet. So if I click this, see, it deletes the analytic feature automatically. If we want to enable it, it enables it. That's nice. That looks pretty good, actually. What does font bold look like? Bold. All right, I think that's actually pretty good for what we need. The last task is I need to add this in a couple different places, mainly so users can like see it. let's see here. Oh, one other thing. We have the loader for the banner, so if there's an error, but we also have is loading here. So what we can do is loading. So if the API call is in flight, we want to disable the button so they can't keep clicking it and even show like, hey, this is loading. Okay. The other thing is I've been showing, I want to show this analytics settings in a couple different locations, just so it's really easy for a user to like get started, basically. So we have it on the home screen. I know that here inside of the analytics summary review. No, wait, really? Ah, here it is. Return analytics settings. There we go. I know we have it in a couple other spots. So let's go to pros. Here. RG1 to 2C. Okay, so we have it in 3 different locations. We want to just shoot it the analytics settings. There we go. So that's that. Pages detail. What? Analytics settings. There's that. And pros detail. Analytics settings. There we go. All right. Nice. That's it. The feature has been implemented. That's pretty cool. That wasn't too bad. I had to make some sacrifices, unfortunately, to the API for enabling and disabling features. But I think what we have is pretty good to start. We can obviously iterate on this a little bit more, but I'm gonna I might as well deploy it while I'm talking. So here, feet toggle or site analytics. User can now enable, disable analytics for their sites and blog. There we go. When I push it, it deploys. I guess I could talk about the deployment process a little bit. So here inside of UI, we have a GitHub action. That action has a deploy. The deploy actually, the UI is hosted on Pages. So I really wanted to just show this. Deploying sites on other platforms can be pretty slow because they have to create a deployment and then initiate the deployment and cut everything over, blah, 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 blah. We have all the same features of like instantaneous deployments in Pages. So the way we accomplish that is through like symbolic linking. So you can create a project and have it symbolically linked to another project. And that's how I've implemented this feature, the GitHub action for Pages. So you can see like it's taken me way longer to talk about this than it did to deploy. Actually deploying took 4 seconds. See, published to Pages, it took 4 seconds to deploy my site to production, instantaneous cutover deployment. Really cool. Really, really cool. That is ripping fast. There is nothing that's going to beat that. Like all we're doing is uploading files using rsync to Pages, but the way that we've been able to do it with an instantaneous deployment is, you create a new project, it's hashed. You can see here, this is the UI. So pico UI 91B, blah, 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 blah. That's the git hash, the SHA-SUM that's the commit hash for the latest commit for Git. So you see here, I created a brand new project on the fly and upload it there. And then what I do somewhere here is, yeah, right here, I link UI production, which is just called UI, to the UI hash. So I symbolically link our production UI to the new on the fly project, and now it's linked. And all that happens within 4 seconds. I mean, it's just, yeah. Anyway, it's really fast. But yeah, I'm going to call it. This was an hour and 15-minute stream. That's pretty long for me. But yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. And yes, great. I had a lot of fun doing this. I'll probably keep doing it. Anyway, all right. See you.